إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون صدق الله العظيم أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah, our protector, the one that we should put all of our trust in, and the only one who is reliable of being trusted. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we ask Him for His help in all the circumstances and troubles and difficulties and challenges that we face in our life. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness for all the mistakes that we make and have made and continue to make on a regular basis. As Muslims, we declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped besides the one and only true Creator, God, with a capital G. And we declare as Muslims, despite what anyone feels about this religion, this beautiful religion of Islam, we declare, or about our Prophet, we declare that Prophet Muhammad was the last and final messenger that has not been sent only for our guidance, but for the guidance of all humanity until the end of time. Brothers and sisters and guests, Muslims are going through some challenges. And I don't think this is surprising news for most people who are aware of the circumstances we're living in. And it's important to understand that while we're going through these challenges, that at the end of the day they're tests. And they're tests to see how we're supposed to respond. They're tests to see how we're supposed to react. And we've been dedicating, many speakers have been coming and speaking in the khutbah, in the sermon, about how Muslims are going to be getting through these times, getting through the next 4 years, how it's going to be tough and how we should respond and how we should react. This is not a one-time thing. This is not a one-week thing. We need to incorporate in our lives a program, and we need to be prepared for how we're supposed to deal with the circumstances that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us in for a wisdom and for a reason, for the long term. And while we're doing that, and we've been talking in the previous weeks about that, about our character and about how we deal with others and about how we do things, one of the things we must keep in mind, and among many others, is that there's a certain way, there's a certain responsibility that Muslims have when being in the public space, when behaving, when interacting with other people, when just being outside of our own homes or outside of our own masjid, there's a certain responsibilities that we have. And that's also part of our test. Part of our test is to see how we're going to respond given some of the stresses, some of the challenges, some of the difficulties that we're going through today. So I wanted to look at one specific statement of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which referred to public spaces. Public spaces means when you go out and you're going to be meeting people, or you're going to be seeing people, or you're going to be observing things happening in front of you. What are the responsibilities that we have? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, understanding this situation, he told his companions in an authentic hadith. He said, narrated by Imam Bukhari, he said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْجُلُوسَ عَلَى الطُّرُقَاتِ. He said that you need to be very careful about sitting in public pathways. Don't just sit in the public pathway where everyone is walking around and all of that. He was saying there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with that. And what he is really trying to do, he's not saying don't sit there. What he's trying to do is he's trying to make them understand the gravity of what it's like to be in a public space. That you're not just someone who goes outside and you live your life as like just a normal person and just like everybody else. No, a Muslim has certain greater responsibilities than an average human being. So he's trying to highlight that. So what did the Sahaba respond? They said, فَقَالُوا مَا لَنَا بُدْ. He said, we have to. Like, you can't forbid us from doing this, O Messenger of Allah. He was not trying to forbid it. But he's saying we have to be in public. We have to sit in public gatherings. We have to. They started explaining. هي مجالسنا نتحدث فيها. I mean, we have to, these are our gatherings where we sit, we discuss, we talk about issues, we meet, it's like a coffee shop, we socialize. We have to do these things, it's part of our life. You can't ask us not to go outside. And He's not asking us not to go outside. He's trying to make them understand how important it is. Your public behavior is very, very serious. And now they're starting to get the point. So He says, قال فإذا أبيتم إلا المجالس. If you refuse, except you have to be in these areas. You want to be in the public, you want to sit in these places, you have to, associate and all of that. He says, فَأَعْطُوا الطَّرِيقَ حَقَّهَا. Give that area, that space, the place, give it its right. There are certain rights. He's talking about the pathway, but it generally means, for us, give the public space its right. When you're in public, make sure that the space itself is given its certain rights. So what did the companions ask? He said, وَمَا حَقُّ الطَّرِيقِ. What is the right of the public space? What is the right of the path? Right? The pathway? What are we supposed to do? He said, قال, number one, he mentioned a few points. Number one, he said, غَضُّ الْبَصَرِ. Lowering your gaze is a responsibility. Number two, وَكَفُّ الْأَذَى. And removing harm from that place. Number three, وَرَدُّ السَّلَامِ. Responding to people's greetings. Number four, وَأَمْرٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And enjoining good upon other people. And the last one, number five, وَنَهْيٌ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. And forbidding and stopping people from doing evil. He said, these are the rights of the path, or these are the rights of public spaces. When you're going to be in a public area, you need to make sure that you observe these characteristics. And this is a great lesson and reminder for all of us. These 5 things must be kept. Now let's reflect upon them for a moment. Let's look at number 1, غَضُّ الْبَصَرِ. Right? This is a responsibility, lowering the gaze. This is something that when we walk around in our society, it's something that many of us are guilty of. What we don't realize is that it's our responsibility to, when we see someone whom of the opposite gender and we're attracted to them and we're feeling some type of thing, we're supposed to avert our gaze. Lowering the gaze doesn't always mean looking down necessarily. It means avert your gaze so you're not staring at that person. I used to have a roommate when I was in college, and he just started practicing Islam. And he started reading these books of hadith, and he came across, غَضُّ الْبَصَرِ, lower the gaze, lower the gaze. One day he came to me and he said, I'm trying to follow Islam, I'm trying to be a good Muslim. Okay, I'm doing exactly what it's saying. It says lower the gaze, and it's summertime. He's in UC Irvine, we're not too far from the beach. And he says, every time I look at something and I lower my gaze, I see more, right? So I said, no, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean literally you have to lower your gaze. It means you avert your gaze from the thing that you're not supposed to be looking at, right? You're not supposed to be, enchanted with someone. You're not supposed to start feeling attracted towards people. But unfortunately, it's a culture. I don't know about girls, but especially among guys. It's a culture among young guys, is that when they see something that, when they see someone or something that kind of is attractive, and they're feeling like some kind of, some lustful gaze or something like that, what do? Instead of averting the gaze, they say, oh man, check out that babe. And everyone starts going and looking. And that also, all of this comes into play with the type of friends that we have around us, the type of response that you have. You see, if someone looks up and they see an advertisement and there's a really beautiful woman there, and you're attracted to her and she's wearing, whatever, or she's not wearing whatever she's not wearing or whatever it is, you can either, get somebody's attention to go and look at that and say, oh man, check that out. Oh man, she's so beautiful. Or, what the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, in Islam, our responsibility in those public places, because people are going to dress differently and people are going to walk around. Even during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not like modern day Saudi Arabia. There were people who were dressed in very different ways. So yes, there was a responsibility to avert the gaze as well. And this is something that we don't realize how harmful it can be. It's very easy to get caught up and say, what's going on with Muslims? Why are we focusing on this? Muslims are being persecuted and there's executive orders coming and all of that. Does that mean we abandon, prayers? We're going to stop fasting in Ramadan? No, these are things that are part and parcel of Islam. Have we ever stopped to ask ourselves, maybe because we're not following the commandments of Allah, then we're going through these trials to bring us back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I know sometimes it's hard to even give a khutbah on this subject. People are, why are you talking about this thing? And I think right now is the best time to be talking about these things, because it's time for self-introspection as Muslims. What have we been doing? How much have we really cared for the advice and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger? This is a time we should reflect upon these things. And what we need to understand is that gaze is deadly. That gaze, when you look at something that you're attracted to and you're not supposed to be looking at that thing or looking at that person, that it actually goes from your eyes, it goes into your heart. And once it goes into your heart, what it starts doing, people don't realize this, what it starts doing, it starts destroying you on the inside. So those people who are married, it starts ruining their marriage. Because they start thinking, man, why can't my wife look like, so-and-so supermodel, right? Well, that's because so-and-so supermodel doesn't actually look like that, right? She actually, this is Photoshop, airbrushed. She's got 10 hours of makeup with like a whole team like putting all this stuff on her. You haven't seen her with her makeup off, because that doesn't come in the public. And the same thing with sisters, they look at a guy and they be like, oh, why can't my husband, look like that with, big muscles and six-pack or whatever they're interested in, right? Well, maybe because your husband actually, likes to eat meals sometimes, unlike this other guy who's, he's not injecting, steroids into his body. Maybe he wasn't into that stuff. So this is what happens. And people who are trying to get married, this is a major problem. A major problem. Most of the youth that I talk to, they want to get married. And they're interviewing, they're meeting people, they're meeting Muslim families, and they're talking to a girl, talking to a guy, or trying to get to know them. No, I'm not interested in this person. Why? Oh, she wasn't 10 out of 10. I'm looking for a 10 out of 10. She was maybe like a 8 or like a 7. A 10 out of 10 for you is like supermodel on the cover of some swimsuit magazine or whatever. And mashallah, she's hafiz of Quran. She's memorized the Quran. She's a scholar. She prays in the masjid. She does political activism. She organizes and she cooks and she cleans, and she's going to be the best mother in the whole world. She says, you know what? She just didn't meet those requirements that I was looking for. Oh yeah, she should also make 6-figure salary and work at the same time. If you set your expectations that high, it's going to be a problem. And one of the problems with our expectations is when we keep staring and looking at other people, and we keep, gazing them, and we keep, eyeing them and say, oh wow, I wish I could marry somebody like that. That's when it starts to go into our heart and messes up our realistic criteria that we have. So we should be careful about this. It's number one. Number two, وَكَفُّ الْأَذَى. The public space also requires us to remove any types of harms that are there. Now, there's things which are on the minuscule level, on the small level. What does it mean to remove a harm from a public area? You're in a public area and you see some trash on the floor, some litter on the floor. Let's say it's inside the masjid, right? In fact, in the masjid, in the public areas, we have a greater responsibility. Alhamdulillah, there's one beautiful tradition or culture that I see, especially among people who are kind of coming from the elder generation. If you've noticed it, I don't know if you've noticed it or not. There's some people, they're taught that the moment they see something inside the masjid, little tiny thing, they go and they pick it up and they put it in their pocket. I see this group of people doing it all the time. Anytime they see some small thing inside the masjid, they don't sit there with the mentality of, yeah, someone should clean that up. I hope the janitor makes sure to take care of that. No, they go and they pick it up themselves. This is a public place. It's not just my house. It's a house of Allah and everyone's going to be using it. So what do? We make sure to remove that obstruction because other people wouldn't like it to be there. You're outside, you see a piece of trash on the ground, we can walk by and say, you know what, well, someone should really do something about that. Looks like a guy tried to shoot a little basketball thing and he missed in the trash can and it fell on the side. You can walk by, or you can do exactly what the Prophet ﷺ is saying, that the right of the public place, when you're in the public place, now it changes. It's not your private abode anymore. Now you have a responsibility. You pick up that piece of trash and you put it in the trash can if you have the ability. If you have the ability. And if you're running for a meeting or something, it's understandable. But other than that, we have that responsibility. And likewise, we have the responsibility outside. If we see something that can harm somebody else outside, it's our responsibility to fix that, to do something about it. And what we're seeing right now, this is on a minuscule level, this is on a small level. On a larger level, in the public sphere, brothers and sisters, we have to understand, we as Muslims are not the only group and not the only group of minorities who are being discriminated against. It is not only the hatred of Islam that's on the rise. It's a hatred of other people, it's a hatred of other immigrants, it's a hatred of many, many other people, specifically Latinos. And this is something that we should not take for granted. These are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are people whom we work with. And these are people whom many of you may have not heard, but there's been over 100 reports this week when we heard the good news, alhamdulillah, that this Muslim ban has been challenged by the court, and it was a successful challenge, and now it's going to have to go to the Supreme Court. They said you're not allowed to implement this ban, it is unconstitutional. That was great news, alhamdulillah. At the same time, while that was happening, over 100 people's doors were knocked in. People were arrested, they were being rounded up, and these were Latinos specifically. They were being asked for their ID, they were being treated very unjustly. This is something that when we see this adha, when we see this harm happening in a public sphere, it's our responsibility as well that we have some responsibility to do something about this. So we should not forget this aspect of our religion and of our deen. I'll come back more to this. Number 3, وَرَدُّ السَّلَامِ. Responding to salam. When someone is giving you salam, a Muslim, saying salamu alaikum, responding to the salam is mandatory. It's necessary. And saying salam is very, very important. And I cannot emphasize this enough. In some cultures, we don't have the salam there. What happens is that people come and they say, hey, what's up? And then when they're leaving, they say, hey, I'll see you later. For a Muslim, we should always start with Assalamu alaikum, and then say whatever else you want. Then you're open. Then you say Assalamu alaikum, what's up, man? You could say whatever you want. You can say any language, whatever statement you want. And when you're leaving, you leave by saying Assalamu alaikum. The person responds wa alaikum assalam. And right before that, you could say whatever you want. You could add whatever you want. You want to add Khuda Hafiz. You want to add, I'll see you later. You want to add, whatever. So, Narakum ghadan, or whatever it is. But your greeting initially, and your response to the greeting, and your concluding greeting, it needs to be salam. And you say, well, this is such a small thing. These are just a few words. Brothers and sisters, these are not just a few words. Not only do they have a beautiful meaning, Assalamu alaikum means peace be with you. Not only should we say it with intention because we actually care about the person, but right now, our identity as Muslims is being threatened. It's being threatened. And there's a serious concern that what's going to happen to the generation, or just think, 3 generations down the line. What's going to happen to people? Are they going to have an understanding of what it means to be a Muslim? Are they going to have that Islamic identity? Saying Assalamu alaikum is part of that Islamic identity. It's part of being a Muslim. It's part of the external aspect of being a Muslim, at minimum. And if we don't emphasize that, if we don't teach it, if we don't regularly practice it, and we get very lax on these small things, you will find that even those small symbols of Islam, when they start to go away, that's when Islam has gone away from that entire community. That's when the Muslim community is going to be at its weakest. And there are people today who would love to see this happen. There are reports that are coming out of think tanks that are hoping that somehow this Muslim identity is going to be completely removed, and then that they can shape Islam and they can shape Muslims exactly how they want. And we need to understand that this happened to communities in the past. Many Muslim communities in the past, they lost their identities as Muslims, and we should not do that. We need to protect ourselves. We need to protect the next, not just the next generation. Think 3, 4, 5 generations down the line. What kind of Muslims are your great-grandchildren going to be? Can you even think about that? It depends on what we do right now, what's going to decide what happens to our great-great-grandchildren. We have a major role to play. We have a major responsibility to fulfill. So never forget this. And the last 2 things he mentioned. وَأَمْرٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهْيٌ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil. This is a characteristic that defines Muslims. One of the reasons why we are supposed to be a great community, as Muslims is because we have this responsibility. Because the prophets are gone, in the sense that there's not going to be another prophet sent after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So whose responsibility is it to carry on the teachings of the prophets? It's your responsibility and my responsibility. This is a major, it's a burden, but it's also a great responsibility, and it's a blessing in a way that we have the opportunity and also the responsibility to fulfill the message and the mission of what the prophets were sent with. They were supposed to call their people to what's good. They were supposed to call their people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were supposed to stop bad things from taking place when they see it happening. We need to also not become insular and say, well, right now we're being targeted, so it's time to just be quiet, it's time to not say anything, we're not going to attend any protests, we're not going to go out in public, we're not going to go anywhere, we just have to hope everything goes away and we only care about ourselves. No. This is not the mentality of a believer. And if we continue to think like that, and I know I've heard people talking like that, and I know some people think like that. If we continue to think like that, then remember that it may be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting these tests our way to see what we're going to do in this circumstance. And if we don't fulfill our responsibility, then maybe some people are asking for a larger test in order to wake them up, in order to make them fulfill their responsibility. And none of us want that. None of us want that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times and in all things we do. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'ir lil muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. I've been notified to ask everyone if they could scoot up. It's getting pretty full, so let's just scoot forward, inshallah ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. So, we talked about the rights of public spaces and what our responsibilities are as Muslims. I just have to commend everyone, mashallah. I've never seen people move up so nicely before in this masjid. This is amazing. It looks like the circumstances have already made positive impact. Alhamdulillah. Keep it up, inshallah. This was beautiful. Alhamdulillah. We've made space for everyone. Now, we are going through certain challenges, but it's very important to never fall into despair. And it's very important to stay optimistic, because when we realize that our time is limited on this earth. My time is limited in this khutbah, and this is the last point I'm going to make. And that's the nature of this world. Our time is limited. And our time will be up, and then we go and we return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not the characteristic of a believer to get caught up in the moment and just start going and having all this negativity pounded at them and saying, the sky is falling. The sky is not falling. If we look at Islamic history, throughout history, situation has been worse than this, much worse than this in the Muslims. Go and look at the Tatar and the invasion, Mongols, and what happened during that time, and many other places, in Spanish Inquisition and many other times. The situation has been worse. So we should be optimistic. We should not be complacent. Complacency means, everything is fine. Is that what you said? Oh, alhamdulillah, we can go back and relax. No. But you don't become pessimistic and say everything is bad and everything is going on. So I want to share with you that what's been happening just in the past few weeks, since inauguration, past 2 weeks or so, we've been telling you that there's been some good gestures from the neighbors and all of that. This is just one example. I want to show you just one example of what we received today. We got flower bouquet. We got these balloons. This has nothing to do with Valentine's Day, just in case you were thinking that, right? They just wanted to send these balloons, right? Why are people sending this stuff? It's because there are good people out there, and they're telling us that we stand in solidarity with Muslims. You have every right to be here. People should not be picking on you, and we know this is happening, and they're saying we got your back. Every single day we're receiving letters telling us how much they love us. They're so happy that this masjid is here. We're happy that Muslims are here. Muslims are great people. We think we have respect for Islam as a religion, even though we don't believe in it. We have the respect for the religion. These things are amazing. And we should be sharing this good news, because it's very easy for mainstream media to get into our hearts and get into our minds and just give negativity, 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 and all of us just go down. These things are amazing and they're happening. And also the thing we have to remember is that when people are showing kindness to us, even if they're not, but especially when they're showing kindness to us, we should reciprocate with that kindness. So now is a chance and an opportunity to be extra kind, more than we normally would be. And now is a time to talk to your neighbors, to talk to your friends, to talk to your colleagues about what Islam is. If you've been hesitating and you've been scared for a long time, now is a time to change that and start talking, especially if they seem like reasonable people, right? Maybe you can check them out first, right? Hint a few things here and there. And if they are, talk to them. Ask them if they'd like to come to the masjid for a visit. Ask them, have they ever, been to a Muslim gathering before? This is the opportunity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this opportunity. People are protesting outside of airports for Muslims. People are going and doing all of these things, and the positive image of Islam in the public, forget mainstream media, forget government, in the public is very high, especially in California. Let's take advantage positively, sincerely of that situation and convey the message of Islam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and guide us at all times. We ask Allah, oh Allah, protect us from the evil of those who are plotting against us. Oh Allah, let us see the truth as truth and help us to follow it. Let us see the false as false and allow us to shun it. Oh Allah, help open the hearts and minds of people to understand the true message of Islam. Oh Allah, help us get through these trials with patient perseverance. Oh Allah, do not make us complacent with our circumstances, and allow us to do whatever it is in our capacity that would please you and that you would want us to do in order for us to enter your paradise. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Few quick announcements. Number one, we have a program tonight, 8 p.m. Dr. Imad Ba'youn is going to be doing the Friday Family Night. We have a special program this weekend about the Ottoman Empire with Dr. Raghib As-Sarghani on Saturday and Sunday. So you can check out the flyer in the lobby. It's going to be a really interesting all-day program, really good about Islamic history. If you're interested in that, come check it out. We have a Spring Break Umrah program coming up with Sheikh Muhammad Faqih and Dr. Ahmed Sobo on April 1st. So you can check out the flyer in the lobby for more details as well. And there'll be a table in the parking area for that. And also next week we have a debate coming up, and the debate is going to be whether Muslim students should be testing out early of high school and going straight into college. Very important decision for those who have children or those who are concerned about education. So watch out for that next week, inshallah. Wa qimus salat.